In a world asking the question, what if the movies that got delayed came out on time and they were different? That's the case in my universe. I'm Steven Shinder, and you're listening to Delayed Replay, Season 5, airing every other Saturday, unless I change my mind. Hello, listeners. Welcome to Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe, but came out on time in our universe. Or sometimes they're even like specials and stuff and other odd things. But yeah, in this instance, we're talking about something that came out for us sometime within the last couple years. I can't remember exactly when. It's kind of a blur. But apparently it got announced but hasn't come out in that other universe, so I'm not sure what's happening with it over there. But introductions are in order. You may have heard him on some episodes of the show in the past. It is Starrapter. How's it going?
Hey, Steven, it's been one hell of a cycle for Star Wars, man. I mean, we got Rangers of the New Republic, my favorite new Star Wars IP of all time. We got Rogue Squadron again. Like, this is just the golden age of Star Wars, man. We're just living in the best times right now.
Yeah. Apparently, like, over in that other universe, there was some problematic stuff, but over here, like, some stuff, like, went pretty smoothly. So, yeah, we had Rangers, and yeah, there was a lot of stuff announced back in December 2020. I think we might have talked about this on the Rogue Squadron episode where there was that announcement, and I was like doing laundry while I saw like all these titles announced. And one of them was A Droid Story. So yeah, and I know some people were kind of skeptical about this, but honestly, like I was kind of wanting like a droid focused story like for a long time. And I'm like a huge fan of R2 and 3PO, but yeah, what do you think of those characters and just droids and Star Wars in general?
Yeah, droids are as important to Star Wars as, the aliens, the bounty hunters, the Empire, the Rebellion. Like, those are part of the DNA of what makes Star Wars Star Wars. I mean, those are our first, R2 and C3PO are the first real characters we actually kind of hear from in the movie A New Hope, and they a lot of times are like the perspective, right? George Lucas talks about, we're looking through the eyes. C3PO is the storytellers. We see him Return of the Jedi talking to Ewoks. Like, these guys are important, and it just never ceases to amaze me that we have this many projects of Star Wars, and Lucasfilm still manages to, in their books or comics or everything, manage to make new designs, manage to make these new interesting characters that have a lot of personality. And the droids, you think of droids as, robots that are autonomous, but or just like kind of, they don't have character. But Star Wars, whether they can speak basic or they make beeps and boops like R2 or BB-8, they actually have a lot of character. They are characters. They're not just machines. So just looking at droids, it's really cool that Lucasfilm actually just made an entire property just with droids. And no, I know we got the droids cartoon, what was it, back in the 80s or something, but
Yeah, that one was admittedly iffy. Yeah, like it was kind of goofy, and it had its moments, but overall, like I think Star Wars fans are in agreement that droids and Ewoks were subpar compared to like all these other animated projects we've gotten.
Yeah, I guess I have to agree with them. I actually have the VHS. I actually have the VHS over here to my left of
Oh
I
wow.
think it's Ewoks season 2 or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, it's cool.
Oh yeah, every time I try watching an episode of Ewoks on Disney Plus, I suddenly remember why I went like several months or a year without trying to continue the next one, but it's something I'm slowly making my way through. But yeah, you're right. Like the droids were really the first characters that we followed in
Star Wars. It's funny, like we think of Luke Skywalker being the main character of that original movie, but we don't see him for like a nice little chunk. We're mainly following R2 and 3PO. So it's really nice that in this movie we have them as well as a new droid hero character. But first off, like, what'd you think of the era that they chose for this particular animated, like, streaming movie, TV movie? I don't really know what to call it, but what'd you think of the era that they chose for it?
Yeah, I mean, having it post Rise of Skywalker is really bold for them, right? I'm used to them paving new territory with the movies as far as the new era. So unless we're talking about the Acolyte, they go before, but still, it's like I know we have the Rey movie coming out, the New Jedi Order in a little bit, but it's really cool when they flip the switch on us. It's like, no, you're gonna get your first foray into that time period in an animated movie, and so I really was expecting a lot because that's the first like footprint in the sand in that era. It's like, okay, what are they bringing to the table? What new things are we going to see? What things are callbacks to what we've seen? What resolutions, maybe if any, that we have from Rise of Skywalker that could show up in this? So for me, that was something that immediately made me more excited to sit down and watch this one.
Yeah, like looking back, I think this one came out before Rogue Squadron. So yeah, it very much was our first post Rise of Skywalker thing on the screen. And what I really love about that is that, in the sequel trilogy era, like the Poe Dameron comics, you do see a bit of 3PO being in charge of the droid spy network. And I feel like that made this my favorite era for 3PO. And so here we kind of see him like communicating with droids, trying to like, I guess, hunt down people who are still loyal to like the First Order, and they weren't all in that final battle. So they're helping like the heroes track down these loyalists, and it's kind of like this thing that happens in the beginning before we get into this other story. So I thought it was a really neat way of showing like where we are in the timeline, and and reintroducing us to these characters. Like the banter between 3PO and R2 is just always so delicious.
Oh yeah, I mean, just going to just see them, right? As I talked about A New Hope, just some of the funny stuff in Star Wars was in those first couple minutes, in my opinion. So it's great to kind of get back to square one. I was excited to see like, hey, we have an animated Star Wars movie in the theaters, and the last time we seen something like that was, I think, back in 2008 with the Clone Wars movie, right?
Yeah, and I think because of the reception for that, they were hesitant to try it again. But since the final season of the Clone Wars had like such positive reception, they were so bold to put this thing, which I think was originally going to be a Disney Plus exclusive, like in select theaters, and so it became like a huge event thing for fans. So, what'd you think of the animation style they used here?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. I like how they actually didn't do the Bad Batch and Clone Wars like clay sculpting X esque animation. Um, they went for like that cutting edge, like, almost blink and you think it's real life kind of animation, because with the technology today, I believe they use the same stuff they did for Mandalorian, Unreal Engine, which is a video game engine, and they just create stuff to look so realistic. Everything from this, just the reflections, especially. It's just like, wow, this stuff is awesome. So it was cool. As much as I like the going on at Lucasfilm Animation with the stuff on the small screen with the animation, it was nice to be like, oh, this is something different that sets itself apart from our normal animation styles that we gravitate towards, that we're used to.
Yeah, it very much looks like those cutscenes you see from certain video games where they
Yep.
look so real. And Yeah, like I do like the Clone Wars Bad Batch animation style, but I think it's great that they're branching out. I think Visions was proof positive that you can do it in multiple animation styles and it could still really add something to the Star Wars universe.
Oh yeah, we got we got plenty of new things. Introduces Star Wars, new ideas, new characters, new locales. Like this is as important of a film as any other Star Wars movies, I think. And yeah, it might be a hot take for some. It's like, dude, this is just animation. Like, calm down, calm down. But no, really, I think this does have a lot to say, and that I appreciate.
Yeah, and I admit it does kind of repeat like that pattern of like the droid hero that they introduce is this droid who's involved in waste management. And I've seen people compare that to like how Rey is a scavenger, so kind of similar background, but I feel like the setting that he comes from, and Cal Kestis, where he was at the beginning of the video game as well, but I feel like seeing how this droid handles waste management. Like you almost expect it's going to be like Wally, but I feel like they make him different enough. The way that he disposes of the waste is like he has to like journey into these caves and throw the waste into this blue lava, and it's like such a weird concept. But yeah, what'd you think of this droid's design?
Yeah, the droid's design was really interesting, really interesting. Um, Again, Star Wars continues to reinvent itself with every release. Uh, I mean, you think about something that has a purpose, right? Droids are built to be as efficient as possible at whatever it is they do, whether it be a load lifter, whether it be a protocol droid that looks like a human, so it looks like you're talking to an actual person, right? Or an astromech droid that are just, trash cans filled with, different gadgets and whatnot just to fix things. So, yeah, this guy definitely being bulked up, almost like a load lifter. But like this guy, I say this guy because like he is like that more humanoid feel to him for sure. But he's very top heavy. He's lifting a lot of things. Um, but yeah, he was a cool design. He was a cool design. I was a little thrown off at first. I was like, have we seen this before? But again, it's just like, okay, but he's using these cables to kind of drag the rubbish along the way. So that was interesting there. It's like, okay, you got these cables. Like, I wonder if they'll ever be used in the future for anything else besides dragging along rubbish. Like, this could be a cool weapon system I would like to see at some point being used. So that was my initial reaction to that.
Yeah, and the name that he has, he's called Lifty, but there are also people who mistakenly call him Lefty because it seems like he's programmed so that his left hand is more dominant, or perhaps like there's like some circuit errors in his right hand. So he kind of answers to both like Lifty or Lefty, but yeah, it was kind of a strange choice, but I guess it's kind of nice to have, a left-handed hero in Star Wars. So maybe we've had some before, but I can't really think of them off the top of my head. So right here is like more in the forefront. And I think that's really nice so people can see a bit of themselves.
That's what it is all about with Star Wars is representation. And it's so cool, just like that minor thing, right? Like, yeah, I don't ever think about lefties that much. I'm a righty myself, but it's cool to be like, hey, I could actually gravitate to this character because I could see why everything is made the way it is to be right-handed and left-handed, not really as much. So it's cool seeing that there.
Yeah, and so Lifty has, because of his mundane life, he sometimes like hacks into like the broadcasts that come from like other worlds. So he's kind of aware of the First Order resistance conflict that's been going on, and so he's aware of like some of the loyalists who have been hiding out in places. And so when he finds one that's been hiding out in this junkyard where he works, he like tries sneaking onto the ship and trying to like turn him into like the resistance, because he sees them as like the proper authorities and whatnot.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting how, first and foremost, like the resistance is still called the resistance.
Yeah.
Like I was really expecting, like, okay, what's the next iteration of a government at this era, right? We're so used in Star Wars of seeing like, the Republic, then the New Republic. So I was a little bit let down. I'm like, what are they really resisting against now? Because they are the dominant force of the galaxy.
Yeah, well, I
It's
think
like,
it's because this is like really early on, like right after Rise of Skywalker, probably. So I
yeah,
think they're
yeah.
still in that transitional phase.
Yeah, especially because like this is in the Outer Rim, right? We've seen time and time again how the Outer Rim are just so far out from the core that a lot of the new ideas just take like a lot longer to get themselves all the way out there. I mean, you see that's where the First Order or the remnants in the Mandalorian age was all happening out there. The pirates, everything. So yeah, from that perspective, definitely see that there. But like, yeah, it was kind of cool again to see him like actually, like as I was talking about before, using the cables that would like shoot out from his arms to like grapple this guy, interrogate him. He was basically like trying to dominate his mind with information. I was like, whoa, so how does this droid go from being a waste management droid to just straight up interrogator? That
Yeah,
was like, oh, I'm in. Like once that happened, I was like, at that point, I was like, oh, this story is okay so far. And then it just takes a dark turn, and it's like, what is this? Like Andor all of a sudden? Like Andor shooting his own informant? It kind of gave me that vibe all of a sudden.
yeah,
Like, whoa.
yeah. And what was weird is that this loyalist, he's actually of a Wifid. He's of that species, which was really weird because you think of First Order and you think of them being kind of like you think of them being xenophobic. So for a bit, we're kind of wondering, why is this guy loyal to the First Order? Like, what's going on here?
I was so excited. I just about jumped out of my seat when I seen it was a whippet because I don't know why I gravitate toward that species, but they're one of the most, if not the most underused species in any Star Wars material. I think they've only shown up in Return of the Jedi, that one character, and they're known to be bounty hunters. They're known to be like underworld-esque characters. I've recently listened to an audiobook, Red Harvest, which is dealing with like a bunch of
Oh yeah,
different
the zombie
the
one.
zombies, yeah, in the Old
Yeah.
Republic era, and there's a whippet bounty hunter and all
Oh
this
yeah, I
stuff that's
remember
happening.
that guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah, yeah.
also in the Clone Wars of Legends, you had that Jedi named Kakruk, who also pops up in the Dark Times comics and even in the Legacy comics, like many years later. Like that, I
Oh.
thought that was a really cool character.
Oh wow. Yeah, yeah, I did not even realize that. But so I'm just again, representation for the whippet species. You gotta love it. I was just already even more engaged at that point because it's like, all right, this droid is interrogating a whippet sympathizer of the First Order. Like this story is so in the weeds already. I love it so much, you know?
Yeah, so basically, Lifty is trying to, he hacks into the ship's, basically, it's like a GPS type thing, and gets into this space station, which, weirdly enough, has droids in charge. And so, like, you got like different types of droids here, and it's almost like they have like their own community. And he talks to the one who's in charge. I think her name is Sparky or something, and she's like a silver protocol droid. And basically, Lifty is trying to be like, hey, I'm trying to get in contact with the resistance. Can you help me? And so they kind of have this back and forth, and eventually they like make contact, and so they're able to get 3PO and R2 onto the line. I don't know why I said that in that order. Usually people say R2 and 3PO instead of 3PO and R2, right?
Okay, so we have the introduction C3PO and R2. And at that point, it's like, okay, yeah, it's great to see C3PO still has that upper echelon kind of leadership, right? He was the Resistance spy master, surprisingly, as we found him in Force Awakens. So yeah, they get the GPS location from the Navicomputer aboard this ship of this First Order sympathizer that will lead to the headquarters of where this holdout cell is. So, one thing leads to the other. Of course, C3PO and R2 are there, but they also don't think that they have enough of them there. And the thing is, they need to have a complete droid team, because their plan of attack is to go into this base, but there can't be life forms on their ship at all, because it'll be recognized like, oh my gosh, the resistance is here. They can't scare these guys off, so they have to basically get on the ship. It kind of reminds me of the Clone Wars episode where they all go into carbonite to sneak aboard the prison planet there with Tarkin and all that. So that was cool. It was giving me little Clone Wars vibes. But yeah, I mean, what did you think about the other droids that they recruited for their cause? Did you get a kick out of any of the cameos or any of the new additions or anything?
Yeah, I thought it was fun that they got well, there were like a couple separatist era ones who are like now reformed, but they're still kind of like shady, I guess, and kind of doing their own thing. One of them was a dwarf spider droid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and like that one's name was Ilmig, which if you read that backwards, it's basically Gimli, and it's like, oh, they're basically just naming him after everyone's favorite dwarf from Lord of the Rings. Okay.
Yeah, it's cool to see those guys getting their due. I was a fan of seeing IG-88 once again. Like, I mean, it makes sense, right? You're gonna be infiltrating a place. You want to have somebody that has weapon proficiency, right? You got your protocol droid. You got R2, like the astromech droid. This was basically almost like D Squad all over again,
Yeah, I was very surprised to see IG-88 was still around and kicking, but yeah, I guess that means like they'll be able to use him in a bunch of comic stories taking place in eras before this and after the original trilogy. And another one that was really surprising was the Hailfire droid. Like at that point, they're like, wait, how are we going to fit this on a ship?
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's. I honestly forgot that those are actually droids in that vehicle. It's like just seeing a droid that big, or that rolls like that. I always thought that was just like somebody was, controlling. But yeah, it is a droid. It is a droid. It's just a massive droid. And again, it's great to see more representation of that thing, because heck, I don't even think we've seen that in a single Clone Wars episode, have we?
No, yeah, that was a thing. Like for some reason, they were never in the Clone Wars TV show, and I don't think the spider droids were either. It's really weird.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a great team. I mean, I recently read part of the Dark Droids crossover from Marvel. They did have a D Squad, and it had 4LM, it had IG-88, it had R2, it had RTKT, like all those characters. So it was cool to see like, D Squad Part 3 essentially, except there was no Meeber Gascon this time around.
Yeah, I feel like they wanted to not include him because they hadn't figured out like what his ultimate fate was, basically. But yeah, this was an interesting team, and they have an interesting like philosophical discussion about droid life and whatnot. And, there's kind of talking about how the separatists said, oh, they basically put droid brains into anything like vehicle, blenders, toasters, whatever. And it was like, what was even going on there,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very cool to see that, as they're traveling to this ship, right? This is not all action. There's actual commentary, like in our own world about just the whole idea of technology and how far does it go before it gets out of control. I enjoyed more of like the philosophical approach. The droids about feeling like, servitude versus freedom, and people use them for certain things as jobs, but they have their own free will. So I really liked how, okay, this is not just a heist, like a heist animated movie of D Squad. This is a little bit more. This actually has some heart to it. It also has some hard hitting kind of like things that make you think.
Yeah, definitely. And I was really surprised that, the base where these loyalists are hiding out, it's supposedly supposed to be that same planet where Obi-Wan and Vader fought. I don't remember if it ever got a name, but it's like a different part of the planet where you
Yep.
see these like giant reptile or creature bones, which I think was going to be the original idea for what the setting would have looked. So I really lit up when I saw that they used that design on that planet for this particular story.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they also have all these different herds of said creatures there. You got the skeletal remains, but you also have herds of these lizard creatures just traveling around. And it is cool because, like, again, like I get kind of tired of seeing these same plans, especially in the movies, right? A lot of the Star Wars live action movies, and even the series too, they don't tend to like push the envelope as far as like unique designs, right? Like it's okay, we got the same desert planet, we got the same planet ecosystem of forest, same like frigid, frozen tundra. So to actually see like this again, it is animated, but like we keep getting fooled by, oh wait, this is animated, not live action, because it looks so amazing. But to see that cool concept of the different kind of bones, but then the actual weird looking animals in these herds, and the whole idea of like the lunar phase of this planet, how it has like three moons, and they're like strewn across the atmosphere. One's like at the South Pole, one's at the North Pole, one's kind of in the center. So it's like this weird twilight effect on the planet, which again, I'm like, yes, this is one of the most inventive looking planets Lucasfilm has done in years. So just right from the setting of this different planet, it got me hooked.
Yeah, I feel like they were able to do more than they were allowed to with this planet in live action. And that's the beauty of animation. Like, I feel like there are more possibilities in animation and in video games so that you can make stuff look better and widen the scope. So, and yeah, the creatures, like, you had these, like, giant termite things that would kind of dwell within these giant bones. And so and apparently they feed on metal as well, so making them a threat to this droid team as well.
Oh yeah. So I don't know about you, but I kind of cracked up when we figure out that the leader of this contingent of the First Order's name is called the Mayor. I was
Yeah.
like that feels like such a Western kind of head honcho bad guy type thing. Like, yeah, I call myself the mayor. I'm in charge of this whole place. Like, okay, that is pretty like predictable kind of thing. Like, yeah, this guy just is so full of himself that he just calls himself the mayor. There's not any other civilized parts of this planet. It's basically just like this run down looking building with a couple ships outside, right? So Yeah, it was interesting how, I'm just going to refer to him as D Squad, kind of infiltrated the place. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that? How they infiltrated this little holdout place?
Yeah, so well, first off, the Hailfire droid is kind of huge, so they had to like leave that one hidden somewhere for a bit, because and that meant that it would show up later again for the climactic moment when they really needed help. But yeah, they went into the tunnels that are like this building is covered in giant bones, and some of these bones are like tubes basically, like they have tunnels that um one can go through, and it's basically where all the sewage comes out.
Yep.
And Lifty is like, don't worry, I'm experienced in waste management, so he basically like gets to lead the squad through these tunnels. And yeah, I thought that was like a nice way to show, oh, okay, he knows his way around. And meanwhile, IG-88 is kind of doing the droid equivalent of cringing because, he's been around for a while and he's like, I'm the most legendary bounty hunter. I'm above all of this. And three,
Yeah.
and like you would expect 3PO to be the one complaining and stuff. And he does a little bit, but not as much as IG-88 here, which was a surprise.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I mean, we've seen IG-11 in a Mandalorian, like season 1, walking out through a river of lava.
Yeah.
So it reminded me just as much as that moment. It was just like, wow, Star Wars, it rhymes a lot. You got a lot of these callbacks that make you go, this is how the Force works. Everything kind of transpires similar ways down the line or before the line and things like that. So yeah, no, that was cool. That was a cool moment.
Yeah. What'd you think of how the mayor looked, like the mayor's overall appearance?
Yeah, it was neat. I like how many cybernetics that this guy has because I mean this guy obviously has been through the ringer. He's like 60 years old or something like that. So not only has he survived the conflict of the Galactic Civil War, but he has also, survived the fall of his own regime, the First Order, and you could tell like just, half his face is just like metal. And it
Yeah.
makes sense because why not have the major villain be part droid? I mean, essentially, a cyborg is a droid, right? There's plenty of things. Like go back to Darth Vader. If you're a comic fan, look at Byler Valance. There's a lot of characters. So he's kind of like one half human, one half droid. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, okay, D Squad is hunting down sort of like one of their own, and a couple of the D Squad want him dead, like IG-88, but the others kind of feel sympathy for him because they're like, wait, he's kind of like one of us. Like maybe we should sort of take him in, kind of thing.
Yeah, I definitely kind of got Baylor Valance vibes. And that's a pronunciation that Matt Martin told me on Twitter one time, so I kind of go with that, but they could change it if they want to for all we know. But yeah, like the mayor is basically, if is very much in that tradition. Like he said, it rhymes, and Vader was a cyborg. And so it makes a lot of sense that the mayor would also be kind of a Vader fanatic and be like, we had to come back to this place where he lost against Kenobi and figure out what he did wrong, and we will channel the energy of this planet into ourselves and really right the wrong of Vader's failure. So it's kind of like he kind of looks back to Vader, but wants to like one up him rather than make Vader proud. So that kind of makes him a bit different from Kylo Ren, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great to get this kind of villain that is just not wanting to emulate everything the previous one is. Like, he wants to actually be better. But it's kind of hard to be better than Vader when you can't actually harness the Force, So it's because of that he is basically like like Baylor Valance. He's like the human Swiss Army knife kind of thing, where he's just got all these little compartments in his wrists that open up, then this that have that. So, I mean, what did you think about once they easily dispatched the couple guards? What did you think about the actual battle and the fight choreography and the shenanigans that the droids are doing?
Yeah, because the mayor doesn't just have hench people. Like, in addition to them, the mayor also has these guard droids. And so, IG-88 is trying to show off with all these spins and flips or whatever. But there is a moment where he kind of freezes up and he's like, oh no, my ankle has short circuited. And it feels very Tin Man and Wizard of Oz for a moment. And what's also funny is, you talked about the Civil War, and 3PO, as we learn, is kind of the reason that the mayor ended up going through the ringer that essentially made him have to become a cyborg. Like, they show this flashback where the mayor is like trying to basically trying to take out some rebel soldiers, and then 3PO accidentally bumps into the mayor and he falls into the thing that it gives him all these injuries. And
my gosh, yes, it's so great to see. Again, what I like about this story is that it's not required viewing that you had watched the original trilogy or the prequels or anything like that, but it is cool because you get the actual flashbacks to what that era looked like in that kind of style animation, which we haven't seen before. So, we've seen Bad Batch, those early designs of the TK stormtroopers and things like that, but it was cool. And then it's like, yes, C-3PO, whether he even knew it or not, because at that moment he kind of was like, oh, sorry, like he bumped into the guy inadvertently. It's his fault. So like this guy, it's like on his hit list his entire life. He's been plotting revenge if he ever finds C-3PO again. And C-3PO shows up and barely doesn't even know who he is. And it just infuriates the mayor so much because it's like his lifelong dream to just destroy this droid that caused him so much pain. And the guy and C-3PO doesn't even give him any credit at all. And it's just like this great comedic performance by Anthony Daniels.
Yeah, it basically was like that Thanos thing of, I don't even know who you are,
Oh, man. Yeah, so you got that part. I mean, you got the Hellfire droid that is outside because obviously it's not going inside, but it's doing cover fire on these drones and different things that are getting sent into the skies, doing cover. IG-88 is over there doing that thing. And you have Lefty, who's just doing his best to try to target the mayor with his little cable arms, trying to trip him up, trying to do that. You have R2-D2 using his jets once again. I don't know what happened in the last 30 years, but he magically has his jets again. So he's flying around, causing distractions. It's a really cool Avengers type moment with droids where it's like you see all these cutting back and forth of just these different things, and IG-88 is over there dual wielding his blasters and all the fun stuff, and meanwhile C-3PO is just trying to have this dialogue with the mayor at the same time. It's just chaos.
Yeah, and we also get these First Order loyalists, they have these reprogrammed and upgraded sentry droids. We saw a little bit of them in an episode of Rebels. They look like the things from Dark Forces, basically. And here, I feel like they're a lot more menacing than they were in that Rebels episode, especially because they go up against the main hero, Lefty, and they kind of tower over him, and it's like, whoa, I don't even know if Lefty's gonna make it out of this. Are they gonna do the heroic sacrifice thing? So that definitely kept me on edge, on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, again, another big moment for me. Like that design from Rebels, those sentry droids that kind of look like Dark Troopers are such a great design. You see them show up in Bad Batch again, and just like they evoke so much power because of just their overall size and like their top heavy aspect to them. Like these guys are jacked droids, and yeah, it definitely leads to the power level of this situation where maybe they could have, maybe D Squad could have recruited like 4LM. Maybe they could have recruited um, inserts any other really cool, droid from across the ages to fight for them. Hey, why not have HK-47? I'm sure that they could find that guy somewhere and reactivate him like they did in Old Republic. But yeah, they
Yeah.
were
Oh man, that would
definitely
be
in over their
something.
heads. They were definitely in over their heads there.
Yeah, and when it seems like the loyalists have the upper hand and the mayor like has C3PO like basically trapped like on the ground and he's about to like try to basically take off 3PO's head. 3PO is basically like, silly man, did you think I wouldn't call for reinforcements? And then you see like some more resistance spy droids, and R2KT is leading them. And so they charge into the compound, and it's like, and the music was a lot of fun too. They got Kevin Kiner to do some music for this,
Yeah.
and it feels kind of like like you could hear a little bit of the Rebels music DNA, but also a bit of the Clone Wars music DNA. But also
Yeah.
look like there's some cool like droid centric music where it kind of had a techno vibe, and so it was
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. So, you know, there's nothing I like more than you have those moments where all hope is lost, and then you get like, there's more of us, and they got all, Rise of Skywalker ships coming in, two towers, Gandalf was coming in with Rohirrim and to wipe them out, the orcs and the Uruk-hai. It's just like, oh my gosh, and here we have that moment with droids, and that's why I'm just like, this is so great. This is so Star Wars right now. This all hope is lost, and then C3PO pulling that card and just saying, "Hey, I got reinforcements," and yeah, they still put up a battle, but it's really this awesome move by BB-8 to like shoot more of these cables out and use his little lighter to like ignite like the cable that goes around the mayor, and he just starts, he gives Rampart a run for his money with his like little girl cry from like the latest episode of Bad Batch,
Yeah.
because he just starts going off, and it's this really high comedic moment where it's just, yeah, this guy's getting what's coming for him, but
Yeah,
they're
and
yeah.
yeah, and Dio is there too, and one of the sentry droids trips over him and like just basically gets like broken apart after tripping.
Yeah, he definitely served his purpose quite well. And again, even if he didn't realize it, that somebody was tripping over him. But yeah, as this fire is starting to envelop him, he just screams for mercy, 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 and R2D2 just like flies down back to the ground and shoots his fire extinguisher off on him. And then he's like, "All right, I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to talk." And yeah, that's when we have like more of the conclusion of, you know, what did you think of this guy's logic for why he wanted to continue to fight after the fall of the First Order? Like, do you think that this plan of his could have ever worked, or was he just going crazy?
I think it was more of the latter. Like he had his own delusions of grandeur, and he was saying how he thought that the flaw of the people leading the First Order was that they were trying to recapture the glory of Palpatine and Vader, whereas they should have tried thinking bigger and going beyond that and trying to be their own type of leadership and their own tactics. And when they have the upper hand against the mayor, he's basically like, "No, I'm part organic and part metal. I'm supposed to be the best of both worlds. So, he has like a superiority complex. And I've seen like all these posts like online about how like R2 extinguishing the mayor, like keeping him from burning completely, is kind of like R2 wishing he could have done that when Anakin was burning, because that was something that he didn't really know until after the fact, I guess. Like he knew they were fighting on the lava, and I guess probably figured out that that was what happened. But yeah, it very much was kind of like righting a wrong in a way. Like R2 didn't want another Vader to be created, which 3PO almost accidentally did. But then again, the mayor was already on the Empire's side during the Civil War anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's cool. We get that nice epilogue at the end. Like they go back to well, I guess they go back to Coruscant now. Yeah, they go back to Coruscant now. And they get to talk to General Dameron, General Dameron and General Finn. So it's cool to see those guys like in a much more leadership position in their kind of cool looking outfits of this newer resistance or resistance that carried over, I guess. But it was nice getting Oscar Isaac and John Boyega to show up real quick at the end there.
Yeah, and everyone is complimenting Finn's outfit, and Poe is like, well, he got first pick, and like Poe has a cool outfit too, but Finn's is obviously the cooler one, so they kind of make a little joke out of it.
Yeah, and then I mean, they made it. I guess they made it pretty obvious, but like, it kind of got a nice reaction out of the audience when, like, they show, Finn, and he actually has a lightsaber hanging from his belt, and it's like, yeah,
And yeah, the droid team is given like their due. 3PO is basically like, oh, we do not need medals. Those would be redundant for us. But IG-88 is like, I could use one. I could sell it on the market. And so, he's just being his old self.
yeah, yeah. It was a good way to close it out, with some good old droid humor there.
Yeah, and you have the thing where they're all standing side by side looking at the screen, and the music's like end credits. Just a fun, cheesy way to end it. But yeah.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I really enjoyed this one more than I thought. Like I said, there were so many moments where I'm like, this movie is dedicated to me. Whether it be the Whippet, whether it be the Sentry Dark Droids, whether it be IG-88, one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. Like, there is so much for me to love about this. But then the idea about it's not, and it's D Squad, but it's not just dumb fun, so to speak. But there was actually heart behind the story. It was smart writing. It was a lot of philosophical discussions about droids and machines and freedom versus oppression, and having legacy that tied back like 30 years or so to the original trilogy era and all that good stuff was fun.
Yeah, and I'm glad Lifty survived. I'm hoping that we get to see him in live action at some point. I'm glad that they let him like become part of the droid spy network team. Like, I think that's ripe for some fun stories in various media.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm fully expected to see him in a comic book series from Marvel at some point. Um, Definitely a cool character introduced to Star Wars again. Like everything has a new droid, and it's like, why not just have an entire story about droids? I mean, we've done everything else at this point. I think it's about time. And yeah, I would like to see Lucasfilm do another one of these movies. It doesn't have to be droids, but just like another animated blockbuster, high budget, 2 hour Star Wars movie. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but my theater here in New Jersey, like it was fully loaded as if it was any other live action Star Wars movie premiere I've been to. So
Yeah, there were a bunch of people in my screening too.
Yeah.
And like some of them were like doing these like really loud cheers at certain moments. Like they just fell in love with these characters.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like going to a Star Wars premiere, with a bunch of other hardcore fans in the room, opening night or opening weekend. It's there's nothing else like it. So I appreciated that. Yeah, even animation can get people riled up and all. So it's Star Wars is Star Wars, and they did a great job. Everybody involved with this one really hit this one out of the park, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So, what are your final thoughts and score out of 10? And do you have measurement for that score for A Droid Story?
Yeah, Droid Story did everything I wanted it to do. It's kind of like, okay, this is D Squad. We're gonna dive into it a little deeper, deal with the First Order remnants. I mean, how could you not? It was a big regime that is not going to collapse overnight. So you're going to get stories like these for the foreseeable future. But, C3PO, R2D2 having a big role to play, but really the new character of Lefty really playing that viewpoint character that rises to the occasion. That classic old story of somebody working like a dead end kind of job and gets stumbled into a much larger thing that positions them into a completely different area than they would ever expect. And just, it was a great story just from start to finish. Great action too. Like I said, some Avengers-esque moments with droids, which is nothing I could ever imagine. That being said, I'm going to give this one a solid 8.5 servo motors out of 10. I don't know.
Nice. Yeah, I think this was a really fun adventure. It was predictable at times, but I think the banter between the droids is what really makes it like really fun and entertaining. And I feel like you can get away with that a bit more with these types of stories, with these droids. Um, I kind of would have liked to have learned more about the Whippet character, like what his whole deal was. It kind of feels like he was doing it like mainly for the money, like helping the First Order. But yeah, like I thought this was like the animation was very crisp, and like you, I hope that they use more of this in other projects. But like also don't be confined to just this. Like there's a lot of animation styles they could try. So I think I'm gonna give this one 8 out of 10 water bottles because there was a little droid on the station that kind of looked like a water bottle.
Yeah, no. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, it was a good thing it was a draw. I was like, oh my gosh, are we getting Starbucks cups? Flashbacks to the last season of Game of Thrones, where somebody just like
Yeah.
left the water bottle on the ground.
Yeah,
It's
there was a droid that kind of looked like Blue Jeans but robotic, and you just know that was a reference to Blue Jeans guy from Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, I literally like did like the Leonardo DiCaprio point at the screen.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Look, Doc, do you see that?" Oh, you gotta love how Lucasfilm, at this point they're just poking fun at themselves sometimes. It's fun. It's good to be self-aware. It's good to be self-aware.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, and also, have you tried the blue milk that's been, I don't know, like if this is like nationwide, but in some stores, they've been selling this blue milk. It's by I guess the company is called True Moo or something, and it's inspired by the Star Wars blue milk.
Well, okay, so I actually work part-time at a supermarket basically, and I was packing out the gallons of True Moo, which generally they just make chocolate milk. They had the gallons with the Star
Right.
Wars label on them, but we don't, I work at um, more of like a wholesale type place, so they don't carry the quarts, which I'm guessing they only carry the blue milk in quarts, uh, or
Yeah, it's
half
yeah,
gallons,
it's
I
like
mean.
the slender half gallons. Yeah.
Yeah, so the half gallons they do not carry. But yeah, I'm just I want to try. Have you tried it out?
Yeah, I've tried it, and at first it felt like it kind of similar to vanilla creamer or like French vanilla creamer, like you'd put in coffee, but maybe not as sweet. Um, so yeah, that was kind of the vibe I got. And then when I tried it again later, it felt a little bit closer to normal milk. So I kind of wonder if maybe it's just like depending on like how soon you open it or something. Um, but yeah, like I guess it's, if you're gonna try at least once, but if you never like are able to try, it's not like the end of the world. I do prefer how the fruity taste of the blue milk that they have at Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah. Okay, that's what my question was, if they taste anything similar at all. Okay.
No, yeah, it's pretty different, but yeah.
Yeah, here's my plan. All right, May the 4th, this universe is on Saturday. All right. I plan on, working, and then after work I'm gonna stop by at every available shopping any available store, trying to track down half gallon of my blue milk.
Yeah.
Then I'll also go to my comic shop because it's also free comic book day that day. Pick up the Darth Vader issue / Star Wars issue that's free, as well as the Dark Horse Young Jedi Adventures. I'll read those, and then I'll watch all episodes of Tales of the Empire. It's gonna be a glorious day with my blue milk.
Nice. Yeah, for May the 4th, I'm well, obviously there's Tales of the Empire, so maybe I'll watch a little bit of it at midnight and then the rest in the morning. And then I'm seeing the Phantom Menace re-release because a friend invited me to see it with him and his friends. And then later that day, I'm going to a concert which is not Star Wars related, but involves a band called Starrapter, and this and also Ruth Radowit is opening for them. So I think that'll be a cool show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. Ah, man, that sounds like a good day too, man. I can't wait. Yeah, it's nice to see that Star Wars really embracing Star Wars Day now. Having an entire series released, having releases of movies in the theater. It's just a good time to be a fan.
Yeah, for sure. Before we close out, I kind of want to like get your like just real briefly, like how are you feeling about the Bad Batch, how it's been going, and how do you think you'll feel about the finale? Because we're recording this like the night before the finale actually comes out, so it'll be kind of interesting if like we don't know what's coming, so like we're kind of going off of what we've seen so far.
I'll be honest, I am so excited, right? I'm okay, so I'm on East Coast, so this thing doesn't come out till 3 a.m. So I'm probably gonna try to put myself to bed like immediately after we get off the call because I'm so excited to just get up early in the morning and watch how the story finishes. And that's about the best thing I can say about any Star Wars project because I haven't felt that excited to actually see the final episode of something in a very long time. Mandalorian's great and all, but it's an ongoing series, it's not the end. So to have Lucasfilm has done a great job for the most part of tying up animated series really well. Like their track record for like their season premieres, their season finales, their series finales has been exceptional. So I already know to expect greatness, and I don't think I will be let down. But just talking about the overall scope of season 3 of Bad Batch, it really won me over because I'll be honest, season 2 had that roller coaster effect for me, where there was like an amazing episode, like, when, the Stormtrooper program is revealed by Palpatine and he throws in, Rampart under the rug as a scapegoat for all this stuff. And that was like one of the best moments in animation. But then you also have like episodes that just feel like they go nowhere. And then you lose that. Yeah, you lose that momentum that they sometimes build and it comes down. Season 3 has been, accelerator to the floor the entire time. And I've really enjoyed the ride. Granted, there has been a lot of setup this season, but at least it's done in a way where it feels like the episodes themselves are really building to something and then everything has a purpose. Everything is building up. And we are at that point, that boiling point is now. And I've really liked the characters. Omega has really just absorbed everything that she possibly can from the Bad Batch, whether it be Crosshair or Tech or Wrecker or Hunter, or Echo. She has learned so many lessons, and we get to see her now as a leader utilizing those skills, utilizing those lessons she has learned, and you get to see her character really coming into her own. It's awesome seeing a redemption story in Crosshair where it's not like, hey, I'm redeemed, I'm dead. It's not a Vader, it's not a Kylo Ren. We're actually seeing how somebody did some bad stuff in their lives, but they are trying to redeem themselves in a long-term format. So I'm very, very much liking the character Crosshair, which I despise the character in the first season and the second season. I mean, how could you not? This guy was a despicable character to a certain point, and then he starts turning. The animation is just so cool. Like the last episode we watched, just like how Bad Batch is coming in hot to Mount Tantus there, and stuff is going haywire, and it looks great. It looks beautiful, right? We were talking about a different animation style. This one, it's no less better than that. It's just different, and it works. It really does work. But yeah, I'm so excited to see this end. I just hope that the episode's longer than 19 minutes because I feel like there is a lot of loose ends that I would like to see tied up, but I just don't have the confidence that they could do that in like 19 minutes. I'm really hoping, the last 2 seasons have had like 16 episodes flat. Like maybe they just make this one double the length. Hopefully it's at least like 30, if not 45 minutes. And then I will be a little bit more assured as I begin the episode. But that's the one thing that I'm griping with right now, and is like there is a lot of stuff to do here. There's a lot of interesting things that could happen in the future for these characters, but overall I'm extremely excited for this.
Yeah, the show has been a roller coaster for me. Like when we talked about season 1 a while back, I remember I think I said that like the first half of the first season um I was really high on. Like I thought
Yep.
it was a strong first half, and then like toward the end, like in the second half, the momentum kind of slowed down for me. And season 2, I think I'm in the minority on this, but I thought season 2 was, at least to me anyway, a bit more of an improvement. Like I felt more invested during season 2. And then season 3, I felt less invested at times. Like I feel kind of detached from the story in season 3. And I don't know if that's just like where I am in life at the moment. So I'm really curious to see if the finale like changes anything for me. Because with the 3D animated shows, I do think they've done great jobs with their finales so far. But right now, it kind of feels like it might be similar to Resistance, where it feels like the end game is based like just a short rescue mission. And I don't know, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe it could be longer and much more than that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious to see like what the ending will be like and what the legacy of this show will be. So yeah, it's it's funny because it's just hours away now. So I don't know. I guess we'll hear my other self talk about his reaction to it, because I think this show is pretty much in sync in both our universes. So we'll just have to see about that.
Yeah, what I really like about the show is they have so many mystery elements, so many mystery box elements, like everything that Hemlock is working on. That very first episode, him and Emperor are looking at something that we can't see. I fully expect that to be revealed. Just the idea of Omega maybe being force sensitive, having that higher M count. There's so many places that could go. So almost as excited as I am to see the end of the show, I'm also hoping that we get maybe a tease of some sort of, okay, what's next? Because there are so many things that could happen, especially when they introduced the Size Ventress for that single episode that very much felt like a pilot episode of whatever that could be, right? An Omega, the Size Ventress hidden, and I'm not the first person that said this, hidden path show, throwing Quinlan Voss in there, or even another show about clones. Like,
yeah, I think I'd be more interested in a hidden path show, because I think I'm at a point where I know it took like 22 years or whatever, but I think I might have clone trooper fatigue. So
Ah,
I kind of wouldn't mind a break from the clones, but yeah, I mean they've been relying so much on the clones that that's probably the more likely route that they would take, honestly.
yeah, maybe they'll do like heck, maybe they'll just do an anthology series. Okay, have like Clone Wars in between uh Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. They could have like, okay, you get to see Omega every once in a while. Oh, okay, you get to see Rex and Echo every once in a while. And I guess the big thing is, do you think that they could kill off all the Bad Batch members in this? Like, my thing is, I don't know if there's anything for these characters to do anymore because they were, in my opinion, or in my eyes at least, like Omega has learned everything she needs to from those characters. There's really not many other places for those characters to go to affect anything that substantial as like this little clone girl with like her future. So a lot of the times, I mean, you've seen this with Obi-Wan. We've seen this with many characters that were mentor characters, Kanan and Jarrus. Like the mentor characters die off.
Yeah,
Why do we not
I
see
could
Bad
see
Batch?
yeah, I could see Hunter dying, but I don't know about Wrecker or Crosshair or yeah, I feel like if anyone's gonna die, it'd be Hunter. Omega has been my favorite character of the squad, and um, yeah, I kind of feel like the rest of the squad don't have as much character that I'm interested in as I would have liked to have been interested in. So yeah, I feel like it could go either way. But if anyone's gonna die, I would think Hunter, but I don't know if they'll go that route. So yeah,
Yeah.
lots of mystery, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. We don't have much longer to wait. So we'll see what your other universe version has to say about it. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah. All right, so I guess that'll do it. Where can people find you online, Starrapter?
Yeah, you can find me over mainly on YouTube, youtube.com/Starrapter. I have my weekly Outer Rim Transmission podcast I do with my buddies Milton and Ben, where we talk about the latest in Star Wars news, and we've been reviewing every episode of The Bad Batch as it has come out the week of. I also have comic book reviews and other reviews from time to time. I also have a blog now that's at starrapter.substack.com. Recently reviewed a story set in 1850s about vampires written by George R. R. Martin before he got famous with Game of Thrones called Fever Dream. I also reviewed Civil War, another movie that came out recently, and I have like different convention stories and stuff on there. So that's over there at starrapter.substack.com. And for my daily takes on video games, skateboarding, Star Wars, you could just keep up to speed with my stuff over on Twitter. Same thing, Starrapter over on Twitter.
Nice. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in, everyone. And without further delay, have a good day. All right, so this is me after the fact, and yeah, looking back, I think A Droid Story came out in 2022 between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Rogue Squadron for us. And if when we talked about Rogue Squadron, it sounded like there might have been some things we forgot from A Droid Story, it's because apparently there is the memory erasing feature on the Droid Story, so like you watch it and then you can't remember, so you go watch it again. So that strategy was in play with this as well. But yeah, I quite enjoyed that. And you can follow me at Steven Shinder, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, or X, whatever. Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. StevenShinder.com website was recently redesigned. And get my books, Standalones and Stepping Stones novels over at Amazon. You can find me on Goodreads, Letterboxd. Find me on Yesshift, podcast/vlog I do with my dad about the band Yes. Got great stuff coming up and also had cool stuff recently. You can email this podcast. I think I forgot to do this part last time via delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on Blue Milk. And for last time, let us know your thoughts on uh,
the scene where Viggo Mortensen broke his toe in Lord of the Rings. I don't know. So yeah, I think that's everything, and my other self will um, what's it called? He'll have general thoughts about uh, the Bad Batch and then Tales of the Empire. So I think the more in-depth stuff will be on the YouTube channel, I believe. But yeah, without further delay, here's my other self. Hey everyone, so I shared my thoughts on The Bad Batch over on the channel Steven Shinder Reviews in video form, over on YouTube. It's not too long of a video. It does touch on spoilers, but without spoiling, right here I'll say overall I thought the finale was okay, kind of just fine. It's kind of between those two. I feel like the long thread stuff, with the Mount Tantus and Omega's abilities, I feel like there wasn't the biggest payoff with those and some of the other threads. And a certain character, which you'll understand when you watch the video. There is a certain character I thought was wasted just this entire series. So overall, the Bad Batch, it's fine. Um, like I guess the finale maybe 6.75 out of 10, and the show overall maybe a 7 out of 10. But yeah, go more in depth in the YouTube video, but it's not too long. I think it's only 12 minutes because I don't have that much time in between things, and I felt like I said all I need to say. Now, Tales of the Empire. There's gonna be a more in-depth video. Well, not super in-depth, but the video will touch on spoilers, I think. If I decide to make the video, I could change my mind, but overall, I think I like it a little bit more than Tales of the Jedi. I'm kind of going back and forth. I think with Tales of the Jedi, I'm kind of um, kind of bothered by a couple continuity things and an episode being kind of a throwaway episode. So, yeah, I didn't see any continuity problems in Tales of the Empire, but yeah, getting more context from Morgan Elsbeth was good. Although, I guess people could question whether we needed those episodes, whether they added a whole lot. Barriss Offee's journey is something that fans have been wondering about for 11 years. And while it was interesting seeing what happened, it was. I kind of wish it had been a longer form, like Barriss had a longer mini series, maybe 8 episodes, because it kind of feels like it goes like it ping pongs from different points, like really fast in her story, because it's only 3 episodes for her in this 6 episode mini series, Tales of the Empire. But yeah, I'm glad it exists. There are just some things I would have maybe expanded. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's like an 8 out of 10 or maybe 7.75. It's somewhere around there, I would say. Um, Recently, I was actually really impressed with the Chucky season 3 finale. The second half of season 3 actually really impressed me for the first time since maybe season 1. There was some interesting stuff in between, but not quite on the level of season 1. And the end of season 3 makes me excited for what could come next. So, really happy about that. And I also started watching a show called Dead Boy Detectives, which is supposedly in the Sandman universe, over on Netflix. And I've been enjoying it so far. The aesthetic kind of reminds me of Doom Patrol, which, I mean, kind of makes sense, DC and whatnot. And yeah, it's a different vibe from what you'd expect from DC because, it's Sandman related. Uh, I think these characters actually may have appeared in Doom Patrol, but maybe different actors. I'd have to like double check, and I'm just like rushing in between things. But yeah, 3 episodes in, it's pretty good, and yeah, go check that out. So yeah, I think that's it for me for now. I'm gonna see the Phantom Menace re-release in a bit. I mean, that movie's been out for 25 years. I don't know if you need a review for that, but I think it's okay. It's maybe my second least favorite Star Wars movie. Although if you throw the Ewok movies in there, they're definitely below all the others. But yeah, it'll be neat seeing it on the big screen again for the first time since a 3D release 12 years ago. So yeah, I think that's it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in, and without further delay, have a good day.
Oh, and sorry about the mic problem. I only just now noticed that. Jeez. Okay. Just pretend that was like forest lightning crackling or whatever. But oh, also there was a new trailer for The Acolyte today. I thought it looked fine. Hopefully it's good. I hope it's really, really good and good enough to encourage Lucasfilm to expand Star Wars television to more eras beyond what we know. And yeah, oh, and also check out my video that's dropped today. Could The Last Jedi have done what Godzilla minus one did? It's over on Steven Shinder video, or rather Steven Shinder reviews in video form, that YouTube channel. So yeah, check that out. But make sure you've seen Godzilla minus one and of course The Last Jedi beforehand. So without further delay, have a good day.